Okay, thank you. All right, we called the 5:30 Planning Commission meeting at 5:30. So right now we'll do a roll call. Mrs. Brown, would you please call the roll?
Randy Caswell. Steve Hannon. John Sullivan. David Goff.
Here.
John Kraus. T.O. Owens.
Here.
Patricia Connell.
Here.
Thank you. I move to excuse Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Hannon, and Mr. Kraus from the meeting. Commissioners, please cast your vote. Oops. I might have cleared your votes. Go ahead and recast your vote. Okay, thank you. All right, 4 in favor. Excusing Mr. Hannon, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Kraus from the meeting. Okay. Approval minutes. The minutes of the August 2nd, 2016 meeting have been submitted for approval. Are there any additions or corrections of the meeting minutes? All right, no corrections. There being no corrections, the minutes stand approved as printed. All right, moving on to general business. There are no general business items to discuss this evening. Reports. We did the sign code update earlier this evening. So, go ahead and do the pledge. All right. Go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, this is the time. Okay. Petitions and communications. This is the time when anyone may address the commission regarding the items that are not listed on the public hearings or on tonight's agenda. The public hearings scheduled on tonight's agenda are Arvada Marketplace Alternative Sign Program number 2. Additionally, we ask that you hold comments that you may have regarding any application that has been filed with the city or is likely to be filed with the city until the public hearing on those items, where we will welcome your comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the commission regarding anything else? Seeing none. At this time, I would like to explain the procedure for public hearings. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation. After the presentation, I will ask those in favor of the applicant to speak. Then those in opposition to speak. The applicant will then be given the opportunity for rebuttal. After all testimony has been heard, the public input portion of the hearing will be closed and questions will be taken from the Planning Commission. I would now like to swear anyone in that wishes to speak in any public hearing matter before the Commission this evening. Please raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in now. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in matters before this Commission is the truth, nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. The public hearings on tonight's agenda include the Arvada Marketplace Alternative Sign Program number 2. Staff, are there any posting or notification requirements?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they're both posting and mailing requirements, and I have affidavits indicating that both have been satisfied.
Thank you. The staff report, posting log, and affidavit mailing are made a permanent part of this record. Are there any additions or corrections to the staff report?
There is one clarification. The first paragraph on the first page of the staff report, I inadvertently noted that there would be 2 wayfinding signs included in this sign program, and there are actually 3.
All right, thank you. Is there a representative of the applicant present? And would you please step forward to the podium and please state your name and provide your address. I'm sorry.
Give a little summary of what the project is.
Oh, yes, please. That'd be great. Thank you.
Great. So this is the second alternative sign program for the Arvada Marketplace. Approximately 3 years, we approved a sign program for 2 large freeway identification pylons. This sign program adds to that we already have out there by adding 2 freestanding signs, one at the corner of 52nd Avenue and Wadsworth Bypass, and one on 52nd Avenue at the entry at the east end of the center. In addition, there will be 3 internal wayfinding signs to help direct traffic to specific tenants. There are 3 existing freestanding monument signs that were installed in the mid-'80s with the original construction of the center, and those 3 signs will come down as part of this program. And staff is supporting the project.
Thank you. Is there a representative of the applicant present, and would you please step to the podium, state your name, spell it please, and provide your address for the record.
Good evening. Is this on? Bruce McLennan, MC, capital L, E-N-N-A-N, with the Farnsworth Group, on behalf of the applicant. We're here this evening to basically accept staff's recommendations. I will do a very brief presentation just to refresh for the commission, just so you have a little bit better idea of some of the context. With me this evening is Lee Pearson from the ownership, Pine Tree. If we have questions for ownership, he's here tonight to be able to answer those. So very briefly, I'd like to go to, I am in control, I understand. There we go. The components of what's going on in this remodel. What's different about this application is that it does extend, as we've said earlier, application number 1. But right now, what we're doing is we're doing this in concert with what's going on with remodeling the rest of this center. Pine Tree took this center approximately 18 months ago and embarked on a new vision for what this could be, also in concert with what the city has been looking at for many years on this site. And one of the things that we're doing that's different here is that we're now actually incorporating the vision from the new remodel as part of this signage, which was not part of the original application number 1, because at that time, none of this remodel had really been established or started to be designed. So what you're going to see is we've got from a legacy asset that's in this city, there's an enhanced visibility that we're creating from all of the frontages, starting with the off-ramp from the freeway coming to Wadsworth, coming around 52nd, and how it is that you approach this center. We're introducing 4-sided architecture, where right now there is no 4-sided architecture. And again, that's going to be quite a great enhancement to what's going on in this site. And visibility from all of the different exposures as you're going to experience this site through a series of different tactics, both designing and then also maintenance-oriented kinds of things. We will be using a lot of pedestrian scale amenities in the new scheme, creating some outdoor spaces, some end caps, and some alfresco dining spaces throughout the actual remodel itself. There's a landscaping update and a landscaping and lighting update. The lighting is very much older technology. We're going to be enhancing that lighting with new technology and all of the new photometrics and optics that we can gain from that. And then also creating a much more visible environment through landscaping remodel, creating a little less of some of the large specimen trees that are now at the end of their life cycle and in fact endangered through different scenarios with some of the ash borer and some of those things. And then also creating a much nicer environment from a pedestrian standpoint as far as understory planting, textures and colors, and year-round kinds of textures and colors. It's going to create a much more vibrant activity within the center, and what we're talking about is that this signage will reflect that. So the components of signage that are part of this new vision, as staff indicated earlier, we have a major pylon proposed out at the corner at 52nd and Wadsworth. We have an entrance monument, a couple of different entrance monuments that are proposed. The one that we're proposing is at 52nd as you come in. to the center itself. And then there are a series of directional signs within the site. We've created kind of landing zones, if you will. It's a little difficult to orient yourself when you come to the site currently. So as you come into the site, there are some landing zones, and at those landing zones, we've created these directional signs which give you a little bit more opportunity to really understand where you are within the center and where it is that you might want to be able to go. So we think that that's an enhancement. We're going to be removing 3 monuments from the site, and those are from the kind of the original orientation or the original development of this site itself. And if you go out and look at those, they were placed in areas that right now actually probably are a detriment to the visibility to the site, and they really don't tell us what's going on within what's happening. We're going to be pulling those and creating a much more inviting environment, and part of that is by placing the signage in the right areas to give us an opportunity to really announce what's happening. I have some animation issues here. There we go. So from benefits to the city as we look at compliance with the requirements in the code, there is substantial aesthetic improvement to the site. Definitely much more creative and innovative design, 3D forms, utilizing pieces of the architecture that are already being proposed in the remodel itself and that are being approved in the FDP the way that it's currently being drafted. And then also incorporating some illumination and graphics techniques that'll be more in common with what you're going to see in today's environment. We've definitely integrated the signs within the building forms. You're going to see some very similar roof forms, some very similar materials, also some very similar illumination elements. And just generally, the forms in general are going to be much more in concert with what the remodel becomes. You can see on the right is what was originally approved and one of the signs that will remain, but we've taken elements of that and brought that into this new signage to try and fold that into the new, the actual new architecture. We're also bringing in the wayfinding, as I said, and the benefit to the city there is we're going to be enhancing the public safety. As I indicated, we'll have these landing zones, if you will, that allow people to really get a much better handle on where they are in the center without having to make that real quick movement in traffic, and I think that that's going to be far superior to where we are right now, where we have that kind of almost an internal ring road that is kind of difficult to navigate. So, in summary, the alternative sign program does benefit the city, both aesthetically and from a public safety perspective. The sign program complements the new architecture and is definitely compatible with the materials. We're utilizing most of the same materials and forms that are implemented in that approved FDP that is in process right now. The alternative sign program does incorporate some fairly innovative and imaginative design. And a lot of that has to do with tying right back to the architecture itself with the rest of the remodel. And the program is also being implemented as an overall component of the design. And its landscaping and lighting design is also part of this discussion, and that's why we're here this evening to request approval.
I will now open the hearing for comments from the public. First, those in favor of the application. Anybody in favor of the application? All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? All right, there being none, and there's no opportunity for rebuttal either. At this time, I will close the public input portion of the hearing. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Okay, come on up and state your name and spell it, and give us your address, please. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
No, that's fine. I wasn't sure when it was the
Okay,
appropriate time.
and I don't believe you were sworn in. So raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in matters before this commission is the truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please answer, I do.
I do.
All right. Now, please state your name and address and spell your last name, please.
My name is Garrett Gifford. Last name is spelled Gifford. and I own the fast signs in the Arvada marketplace, but at the east end of the complex. And I just had a question as to, because that property is, I think, owned and managed by two different entities. So I was curious as to how whether the Newmark Barrel people are involved in this discussion at all, and if so, how that plays out.
This application is strictly pine trees on their portion of the center.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I need to have you swear.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. All right, well, just please come up and state your name, state your name and address, and please spell your last name.
Sure. Luke McFetridge, 4560 Ridgeway Drive, Loveland. McFetridge is McFetridge.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Speak to the commission.
Do you need me to swear in?
Do I need him to swear in? Okay. All right, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in matters before this commission is the truth and nothing but the truth? And if so, please answer, I do.
I do.
All right, thank you.
Did you want me to address?
Address the commission.
Okay. So yeah, as Newmark Merrill, we've actually been working with Pine Tree from the very beginning on this plan. We've actually partnered with them on not only the position of the sign panels, which would represent both sides of the shopping center, but also the aesthetic look. So we've been partnered with them from the very beginning.
Okay, thank you. Anything further?
I have one other question. Is there any consideration for at the east entrance of the shopping complex having any signage at that entrance?
Right now we've got the wayfinding signage.
Please come to the podium.
I'm not sure who to talk to, sorry. At this moment, we have the wayfinding signage as you enter the center, but we don't have defined plans yet as to any signage on the far east side yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That was the only question I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for or in opposition? All right, thank you. At this time, I will close the public input of the portion of the hearing. I now open the hearing for discussions, questions, or comments from the members of the Planning Commission. Are there any further questions or discussion? Commission? Yes, Ms. Coswell.
Yeah, so can we just clarify, because one of my questions was relative to, I guess the pages are not numbered from the applicant's submission, but I think in quadrant 4, there is an existing sign to remain, it says not on property, and that was my only question, is that must be one of the two large pylon signs that are existing, and perhaps this demarcation between the Newmark Merrill site and the applicant's site is the reason it says not on property, but that's correct. I'm unsure. Okay. So is there a page within the exhibits to the application that demarcates the ownership boundary?
The last site plan you have in your packet, in the bottom where it shows that it's quadrant 4,
Yes.
where you see that one sign you were just referring to, there's a dashed line right to the right of that runs horizontally through the site.
Okay. Thank you.
That's the separation of ownership.
All right, and will there be any changes to the existing two large pylon signs?
Not as part of this program.
Is that anticipated in the near future? No. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Coswell, Connell.
Perhaps I overlooked it in reviewing the pages, but as people exit I-70 onto Wadsworth in order to head north, there's that large digital, not digital sign, but will that remain? Maybe I missed it in the, it's on the very southeast corner.
That's the low monument along Wadsworth itself?
Yeah, it's a large sign that we okayed.
Yes, that's the one that was just pointed out here, and that does remain.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
The
I
large
didn't
one,
follow
the lower monument along Wadsworth and along 52nd are removed in this application.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, are there any further questions or discussion? Seeing no further discussion, is there a motion? Commissioner Coswell.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. The sign package does look very aesthetically pleasing. I think it will certainly be an enhancement and welcome the new ownership and investment in this center. The four-sided architecture that's planned to complement the signage or vice versa it looks very good, and thank you for the visuals in your presentation packet, because seeing the sign in connection with the scale of the buildings and the landscaping is very, very helpful when we look at these applications. So thank you very much. And with that, I would move that ASP 2014-0002, Arvada Marketplace Alternative Sign Program Number 2, 7370 West 52nd Avenue, be approved, subject to the conditions stated in the staff report, item 1, page 7. This motion is based on the findings of fact and approval criteria on page 6 of the staff report.
Motion is made. Is there any discussion of this motion? Seeing no further discussion, Commissioners, please cast your votes. See, the motion passes, 4 yeses to 0 noes. Looks like it's you passed through the commission. Be sure to speak with staff as to when this item will be going to city. No, this one does. Thank you. That's a reminder from 3 years ago. Sorry. All right. Thank you, citizens, for your participation in this meeting. Are there any other items?
A couple of things. The next meeting is scheduled for September 6th, and there will be a plethora of cases related to the King Supers at Candelas. We'll have an overall development plan, a preliminary development plan, preliminary plat, conditional use permit, and another alternative sign program, all related to that application. So it'll be a
And we'll also have election of officers.
election of officers. All right. And I just wanted to get a feel how your impression of the workshop this evening regarding the sign code. Did you feel you got enough information, or do you think you need more workshop time related to that item?
I'll speak only for myself. I felt like I needed a little more time, maybe even myself reading the packet a little more, but maybe additional time because I still have questions about the sign code.
Okay.
I did read through the packet and followed the information, but there's there are several changes, and so based on that, possibly expanding a little bit more.
Okay. All right, we'll take a look at that and see when we can get another workshop scheduled and see if that works for your schedules. Thanks.
Can I just add one comment to that? I think we've had a lot of discussion around the legal issues, the Supreme Court case that led to some of these changes. So I feel comfortable with that aspect of it, but what I would really like to do, for the staff to consider if we do a workshop, is walking through maybe a handful of different types of sign applications which would normally come before you, and walking through the process that an applicant would have to walk through, or the steps in the new code that would be walked through to examine approval criteria as they're now being drafted. That's what I think would be most helpful to me, is just to understand, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, how would this feel, look, and act from the perspective of a member of the public business community coming before us to get some relief under the new provisions.
I would add to that the old sign code and the new sign code are both complex, and they're pretty different. And so my struggle has been, how do I compare the two? If you could help compare the two, and I think in those examples may be a good way to do that, to show an example of a sign that maybe would have required a variance or wouldn't have been allowed prior and now is going to be allowed, would be really helpful for me.
That's an excellent idea.
That would also help me in that because of the changes, it seems it's less controlling in a way sometimes, but there are many other aspects that have been added to it, so it would be helpful to compare.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your input.
Anything further? Adjourn.